Story 1. A cheating wife who abandoned me during my hospitalization now seeks forgiveness after 12 long years. Hi, I'm Jason, M47. I want to share my life incident here to get some advice. This goes back to 12 years ago when I was married to Susan, my first wife. I was married for 7 years with 2 children, Laura and Lucas. They were 5 and 3 then. We were leading a regular life until one faithful day. One morning when I was driving to my office, a speeding vehicle from the opposite direction rammed into my car. The next I remember waking up on a hospital bed covered in bandages and plasters. The nurse informed me that I had woken up after 2 days in a coma. I held my doctor's hand and thanked him for saving my life. I was grateful for the new life, but little did I know about the disaster that was about to unfold. After a week of my treatment, my doctor informed me that my lower body was paralyzed and I might never be able to walk again. I was shattered. Susan broke down at this news. It was evidently difficult for her because she had to manage the house and the children in all aspects. I fell into depression, unable to comprehend my life in a wheelchair. I spent my days staring at the empty walls of my hospital rooms, cursing how my life turned upside down. I dreaded how I would never be able to play soccer with my children, how I would never be able to dance with my wife, and I would never be able to be free again. To add to my miserable life, Susan stopped visiting me. In the initial days of my stay, she brought the children thrice a week. The moments I spent with my family were the only ones I lived for, but as the days passed, her visits became scarce. I pleaded with her to get the children to visit me, but she would say that the children didn't want to meet me so often. I felt hopeless. Then one day, she handed me the divorce papers saying, "I definitely can't spend my life with a handicapped man. I'm still young and desirable. I deserve a normal man." I would be lying to say that I didn't sense that coming. I sniffed the upcoming separation when she started giving cold shoulders to me, but I didn't expect that to be so soon. A month after my accident, some of my friends informed me that they had seen Susan loitering around hand in hand with a middle-aged man, probably someone in his 50s, in the cafes and malls during the evenings and on weekends. Some claimed that she had an affair even before my accident, and some said that her desperation got her into a fat, grumpy old man after my accident. It was barely 2 months after my accident. I was yet to be discharged and was handed divorce papers. I might be sounding calm while writing this, but I was none of it back then. I was flustered, devastated, and heartbroken. I was wheelchair-bound, destitute, and divorced with no income or savings. After paying for the household expenses and children's education, savings was off the radar. Luckily, I had insurance that covered my hospital bills to an extent. I had to liquidate my savings for the remaining expenses. So in the end, I was left with nothing. I wanted to yell, smack my head against the wall, and curse my fate. I don't know how I upheld myself back then, but something inside kept me sane. Probably the fire of taking revenge. After being discharged, I shifted to my parents' house. I was 35, divorced with no income, and dependent on my old mother physically and financially. My mother was a florist. She ran a small shop in the suburbs. The little income from the shop and the pension money kept her expenses afloat. With that limited resources, she offered to support me. It was the most troubling feeling for a 35-year-old man to depend on a 62-year-old mother. Soon after my discharge, I went to meet my children. When I reached my house, it was locked. The neighbors told me Susan had shifted to her lover's house with the children. According to my neighbors, Susan's lover was a fat old man who had been divorced thrice but was filthy rich and had no children. Some even labeled Susan a gold digger to sleep with a grumpy old man for his fortune. I managed to get the address of her boyfriend and reached his house. When I reached Susan's new home, she didn't let me meet my children, saying that the children had already adjusted to her boyfriend and apparently called him daddy. She said that my sudden appearance would confuse them further. She threatened me with a restraining order when I insisted on meeting my children. I didn't have a penny to spend on a lawyer. I was surviving on my mother's meager income, so I backed off. It was less than 6 months after my accident and only a few months after my divorce. She was already living with a man. I felt disgusted. I asked her how she could abandon me and move on so quickly. Immature, I know. I was a helpless, wheelchair-bound father. What else could I do? I pleaded with her for at least one chance to prove my worth. She belittled me, saying that I was a burden in her life. I asked her if she cheated on me before the divorce because our divorce was settled a month ago and she was already living with her lover. She shooed me, saying that it was not my business and that I should never show my ugly face to her. I kept staring at her, contemplating my 7 years of married life with that woman who replaced me with another man in a few months. I left the place with teary eyes. I went back home feeling defeated by the humiliation. I cried like a 5-year-old in front of my mother, who consoled me. She motivated me to take charge of my life. I was clueless about my life. I was directionless to start with. I joined my mother in her shop. I helped her make bouquets, serve the customers, and clean the shop. Soon I realized that the business had a huge potential to grow, but my mother was too fragile to do it herself. I pulled out my old contacts to secure contracts with event management companies to supply flowers at the events. Gradually, I built a team and took contracts for venue decorations and eventually launched my own event management company. It took me 12 long years to rebuild my life for myself. My mother had my back all these while. She supported me and motivated me to bounce back. A year after my accident, I learned Susan was leaving the city with my children and her lover. I rushed to the house to meet my children, but they had already left by the time I reached. Before that, I tried to reach out to my children multiple times, but Susan insulted me and chased me away every time. Susan had full custody of the children and could decide everything for them since I was physically and financially challenged. I couldn't contest joint custody. I couldn't challenge her restraining order because I was too broke to hire a lawyer, whereas Susan had a wealthy boyfriend, Evan. I didn't know if he was already with her before my accident, and if not, how he suddenly appeared in Susan's life. All I knew was that he was a wealthy man with ample ancestral property. In the last 12 years, whenever I got any leads from my children, I traveled to meet them but failed every time. Susan threatened to get me arrested as her boyfriend had the money and contacts to get away with anything. By the way, that man didn't marry Susan even after 12 years, although they lived together. A year ago, I finally filed for joint custody. I was waiting eagerly for my event management business to get stabilized. I filed for custody and finally managed to get 15 days. They are flying next week to my house. Although Susan did her best to object to my plea in court, I hired a good lawyer who presented my case well, and I got 15 days. Besides, my children are grown-ups now, and they were asked if they wanted to meet me and affirmed a yes. I know I can't compensate for the lost 12 years, but I wish to spend quality time with my children. As the time is nearing, I am feeling nervous and delighted at the same time. They are 17 and 15 now. I know teenagers are demanding these days. I hope that my children are not mean and toxic to the extreme. I don't know what story Susan has told them in the last 12 years, and should I tell them the truth about their mother? I don't know. Do you guys have any suggestions on this? How do I approach them? I'm super nervous and super excited. Update 1. Hi all, I have quite an update. I missed 2 critical pieces of information in my original post. First, about my current wife, Amy. Yes, I remarried a beautiful woman 5 years ago. Amy is an interior designer. I met her at an event where she was designing the wedding venue, and we were providing the flowers. I was yet to start my own company at that time. It wasn't love at first sight, but we vibed well. We kept meeting for such events in the next few months and became friends. She was a single mother of a 3-year-old daughter. The idea of starting the event management company was hers because she worked for one of the companies for many years and had the contacts and knowledge of the business. I partnered with her to launch the business. We dated for a year before getting married. Now we live as a happy family of 4. Amy, her daughter Mia, my mother, and I. Her daughter was delighted to get a granny, and so was my mother. The second information was regarding accident compensation. I was hit by a speeding truck, so ideally I should have been compensated by the logistics company owning the truck. But at that time, the company got away with paying nothing by manipulating the facts about the accident and pinning the blame on me. I could not hire a good lawyer back then, so I didn't get a penny. You know how big companies work. They pay in bombs to their attorneys to save their backs. After my marriage with Amy, she suggested I refile the case since we could afford a suitable lawyer. The case is still in court, but my lawyer has given us a positive hint that the judgment would come in our favor. Alright, coming back to my story. As I mentioned in my original post 3 months ago, my children were supposed to visit me after 12 years of my divorce. I was excited and nervous, but Amy calmed me down and supported me all this while. I went to pick them up from the airport. The elder one, Laura, is 15 now, and the younger one, Lucas, is 13. They have grown up to be beautiful and handsome teenagers. After the initial greetings, we ran short of conversations. It was awkward for all three of us. On our way to the house from the airport, I tried to break the ice and ask them about their school life and city. I deliberately skipped the conversation regarding their mother. They too didn't bring her up. The children were unusually silent, or maybe looking for an opportunity to plug into their earphones like any other teenager. Upon reaching home, we were welcomed by Amy. The children looked shocked as if they didn't anticipate this coming. I don't know why Amy was a surprise to them when their mother could live with another man within months of our divorce. Why can't I remarry? Amy had set up the guest room for the children. We had lunch together, and Amy laid out the vacation itinerary we had planned for the family. They gave a neutral reaction to everything. Neither were they excited nor did they dismiss the plan. Amy and I were confused by their mixed response. They locked themselves up in their room, and soon after that, I got a call from their mother, Susan, accusing me of tricking our children. She said I brought the children to my house so Amy and I could manipulate them. I felt disoriented by her behavior. She accused me of hiding the truth about my marriage. I wondered at her accusations. I hung up on her, but she persistently called me. I decided to address the elephant in the room. I called my children and asked them what was the matter. After the initial hesitation, they spoke up. They were mad at me because it was said to them that I had abandoned them. Susan had brainwashed the children against me and had filled their heads with all lies and deceit. I revealed to them the exact truth that it was their mother who jumped to another man as soon as she got the opportunity. They were kids back then, yet they remember those incidents very well. I told them how Susan disappeared with them to the old man's house and how she had threatened and chased me away whenever I tried to contact them. I showed them the restraining letter and all my rejected pleadings I made to meet them. They were in tears and regretted believing in their mother's lies all these years. My younger son, Lucas, admitted that once he tried to reach out to me on social media, but Susan caught him. She emotionally blackmailed him and took a promise from him that he would never contact me again. The children also admitted to having been rebuked by Susan's husband. Susan and the children were mistreated at the family gatherings because they were unmarried. Susan continued to stay as a mistress in his house. Although the man paid for their education, he was never a fatherly figure to them. My heart ached as I got to know about my children's adversity. After all the truths came out, we hugged each other and cried our hearts out. We went for a week-long vacation in Florida and had a great time together. Laura and Lucas bonded with Amy and Mia, who was turning 8 this year. I couldn't be happier seeing all my family together. My children uploaded our group photos on social media, captioning them, "Happy Family." As soon as Susan saw those photographs, she called them up and berated them for their foolish behavior. She blamed them for betraying her by bonding with us. She texted me, threatening that she would not let me meet my children further if I did anything to turn them against her. I laughed at her hollow threats and continued with our vacations. After returning from the vacation, my children met with my relatives. My relatives happily hosted them, and I was delighted to see the old bonds rekindled. When they were about to leave, they promised to keep in touch despite Susan's threats. They said that they felt suffocated to live in that house, and they would move back with me once they completed high school. I hugged them and bid goodbye. After going back, they confronted Susan about her evilness, but she turned the table around me, accusing me of manipulating them against her. It's been a few months since they returned, but we talk regularly. I hope to have them back with me. I'll update you if anything develops. Thanks a lot. Update 2. Hey all. I know it's been a long time since I have updated. There's been a lot of drama in the last 6 months. After my first meeting with my children 3 months ago, The impending court case with the logistic company was settled. Guess what? I got hefty compensation not only for the accident but for the injustices in the first trial. I'm not sure if I mentioned this. In the initial trial, the logistics company whose truck rammed into my car manipulated the case and pinned the blame on me for the accident. Hence, I was not compensated at all. I appealed it again at my wife's suggestion and won this time. I gave the news to my children, and they were equally elated. They wanted to meet me, and I promised to have them back with me permanently. A month later, Susan showed up at my office. She held my hand and asked me for forgiveness. I was taken aback at her sudden sight. She admitted that after my accident, she turned desperate. She found an old man who wanted a sugar baby. I didn't know about all these terms until I Googled it on that day. The man had a few horrible experiences with a younger woman who ran away with his money after a few months. So he decided to settle with a not-so-young sugar girl, Susan, who was 32 back then. Susan had 2 children, which served as a guarantee of her loyalty. The man had stated clearly that he would not marry her and instead keep her as the mistress because he didn't want to share the inheritance with my children. Susan agreed to his terms because he promised to feed and fund their education. I asked her why she didn't get a job. She said she had never worked and was unsure if she could earn a similar lifestyle which her lover gave her for free. She kept saying that she did everything to protect the children's future. I got so annoyed at her nagging that I yelled at her, saying she could have at least given me a chance to bounce back. If she was so concerned about our children's future, she should have discussed that with me instead of jumping to conclusions and deserting me without any heads up. I clarified that I had moved on and her pleadings didn't matter. She recounted all those happy moments we shared like our wedding day, the birth of our 2 children, etc. I shrugged her off, saying I was a different person now and all those memories had faded away. They didn't mean anything to me. She crossed her line by saying she and my children were my original family, not Amy and Mia. She said that Mia was not my daughter and that I could never have a proper family with Amy and Mia. I felt disgusted at her cruel mind. She insisted that I'd take her back so the real family could reunite. I made it clear that I love Amy and Mia, and they are my real family, not her. She refused to leave my office, creating a scene. She left only when I threatened her with the police. I went back home and narrated this to my mother and Amy. Amy was naturally distressed by this, but she is a mature woman and didn't make a deal out of it. My mother said that she never liked Susan because of her selfishness. Mom even said that Susan had returned to me only because of the money I had received after the court settlement. That woman is indeed a gold digger. When my children learned about their mother's behavior, they berated her and told her to stay in her lane. I'm not sure how her sugar daddy got to know about this incident, and he had threatened to throw her away if she tried to reach out to me next time. I couldn't be more thankful to him. The latest update is that my children are moving in with me this month. They would stay with us briefly before I put them in a nearby college. They wanted to enjoy their college life and stay at a hostel. I believe we should remain connected but at the same time give ourselves some space to know each other. The children have abandoned Susan, and in the end, she is left with nothing but her sugar daddy. I hope she gets to enjoy the sugar until it turns sour. Haha. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. My boyfriend didn't want to pay $200 to save my life. I was at a bar with my boyfriend and his friends a while ago. We all had a great time, dancing on tables, singing and drinking. I remember feeling totally fine 1 second, and the next I got super unsteady and I lost connection with my body. I was confused and scared, shifting between multiple emotions within a span of seconds. I fell unconscious and, according to my boyfriend, the few times I opened my eyes, I looked extremely scared. He was told to find a taxi and get me to the emergency room immediately. He managed to get me into the taxi, and as we started to drive off, the driver told my boyfriend that he would have to pay $200 extra if I threw up in the car. My boyfriend then stopped the driver and told him he'd rather walk over to the emergency room. I was still unconscious, and he didn't know why or if my life was at risk. Luckily for me, the police were driving around and saw me as I was lying on the ground. They asked my boyfriend what was going on with me, And when he explained the situation, they drove us to the emergency room, using the lights and sirens to get me there as fast as possible. They took my state very seriously, and without them, my boyfriend would have been lucky to even get me to the emergency room in a couple of hours. Turns out someone had slipped substances into my drink that night. My condition only got worse. My boyfriend had forced me to walk with shaking legs from the emergency room the day after I'd been admitted. The walk, which should have usually taken me 20 minutes, took more than 2 hours. During our walk, my boyfriend started talking about the fact that he could have been in my position and felt like he might have gotten a little slipped into his drink as well, but he didn't feel weird at all that night, so he couldn't be sure. He then went on to tell me that he had to pay $40 for the little taxi ride we took, and it sounded as if he was asking me to pay him back, which admittedly upset me because I was trying to come to terms with the fact that someone had tried and failed to do something terrible to me the night before, while all he seemed to care about was how much the taxi cost him. He then looked up symptoms related to what had happened to me and found out that one of the long-term symptoms would mostly consist of trauma. The next weekend when we were hanging out with his friends, they talked about that night and even joked a little about the fact that someone had slipped me something, and it made me feel awful. My boyfriend has also been ignoring me ever since the incident, especially when I voiced my concerns that I felt someone had been following me the other day. He never seemed to care about me walking around town at night, but if any of his female friends did, he'd always make sure to be by their side and escort them home. He argues with me when I'm scared, instead of making me feel better or protecting me. This can't be normal behavior. I'm beginning to wonder if this relationship is even worth it anymore. I'm a bit scared that I might be overreacting, but most of this was told from his perspective as I don't remember anything that happened that night. Now on to the next story. Story 3. I, 33M, overheard my girlfriend, 28F, making fun of me pretty brutally to her best friend, 27M. When I say brutally, I mean brutally. My girlfriend Jenna and I have been together for 2 years, a little over. I'm a veterinarian and we met at my office. She had just moved to the city and brought her dog in for an ear infection. We started talking and what should have been a 15-minute appointment turned into an hour-long talking session. I've never been so smitten with a woman before. Before Jenna, I lived the bachelor lifestyle. I was beginning to think I'd just stay single forever, even though that lifestyle of nothing but casual flings was growing really old and empty. Jenna is a charismatic woman with a lot of friends. Her best friend is a guy, Dylan, whom she knew in her old town. I trust Jenna, but I'd be bold-faced lying if I said that her relationship with him doesn't bother me at all. I don't get angry with her or fight about it. She's reassured me that they've been friends their whole lives and have never had any sexual relationship. I'm secure and I'm not insane, so I accept that they are friends and have tried to buddy up with him as well. He has visited the city 3 times. He's a cool guy. However, he does not seem to like me much. Jenna says he's just protective. Comes off a whole lot more like jealousy than protectiveness in my opinion. Jenna just finished up grad school this spring, but she's had a really tough time finding a job. We have lived together for a year and I've been understanding that she can't help pay rent, etc. right now. I'm very financially secure, so it isn't an issue. However, I am careful to not become a reason for her to not get a job and have her own financial independence. I just think it's important for everyone to have this sort of independence, so without being pushy, I've let her know that she just needs to start paying half of the expenses once she secures a job. Anyway, she texted me at work on Monday to tell me she got a job. It's a job she really wanted and had to go through some pretty grueling interviews to get. I was so happy and proud of her that I decided to leave the rest of the day at the office up to my staff and took off early without telling Jenna. I bought her favorite booze, grabbed a bunch of Chinese takeout, her favorite, and bought her flowers. I bought her a nice necklace that she'd seen at a store a couple of weeks ago. Nothing super extravagant, but it has a shark on it, and that woman is just obsessed with anything to do with sharks. I'd hidden it in the basement and figured I'd give it to her soon. Totally surprise her with it once she'd forgotten about even seeing it in the store. I got home and came in the side entrance to the basement so I could grab the necklace and then surprise her. When I came up the basement steps and opened the door, I could hear her talking on the phone. Normally I wouldn't stop and listen, but I heard her laughing uncontrollably, like belly laughing. It was pretty cute, so I figured I'd wait for her to get off the phone before I surprised her. She was talking to Dylan. Nothing new there. They talk at least once a week. Then I heard what they were laughing about. Took me a few dull minutes to realize that she was laughing about our sex life. She said something about how, no, he can't even compare to XBF. XBF had at least 3 inches on him. I feel bad every time I eat a baby carrot around him because it must be traumatic to see me chomping down on something the same size as him. It would almost be cute if it didn't suck so much. His body is amazing as long as he keeps his boxers on. Lots of laughter. So look, I don't really give a crap what people on Reddit think about the size of my member. But I do think it's important to say that what she was making fun of wasn't even true, which in my opinion makes it even more hurtful. I mean, I don't know about the XBF, maybe he was a horse, but I'm very average. Just a good old-fashioned average. Not going to upsell myself here. It's nothing to write home about, but it's also not laughable. I've never felt self-conscious. It is what it is. To hear her ripping me apart to this guy that she knows I have some concern about was just beyond hurtful. Hurtful doesn't cover it. She also made fun of me for being gorgeous but not super smart. I'm actually highly educated. This isn't even remotely a concern of mine. I know I'm smart. Gorgeous and super smart with an average-sized penis. Thanks very much. I left after that. Did I throw the flowers out of my car window? Yes. Did I cry in a parking lot? Yes. I think she may have heard the basement door close. Maybe she even saw my car driving away because she started texting me pretty quickly after I left, asking when I was coming home. That was Monday and I haven't brought it up. I don't know how. I think I'm still processing everything. It's horribly embarrassing and hurtful. But damn, I love this girl. Not saying I'm going to forgive her necessarily. I just want to stress how hard this whole thing is for me. I know I need to bring it up to her. But how? Any suggestions on how to start this conversation with her? I'm extremely hurt and I don't know if I can forgive her for this. TLDR. My girlfriend made fun of me with her male friend about our sex life / my penis. Pretty hurtful stuff. I feel like a puppy that just got kicked in the face. Joking aside, I'm devastated. I was planning to propose in the next few months. Now I don't see how I can even forgive her and stay with her. Advice? Edit. Wow. Hey, thanks everyone. I just wanted to add that I definitely will be breaking up with Jenna. I grabbed a beer with 3 of my friends tonight and told them. Their sentiments match the majority of yours. Dump her and do it quick. I called my mom and told her about it. Yes, I told her everything, embarrassing as it was. We are pretty close and I wanted to tell her the whole story. And I've never heard her so angry about anything. She knew I'd bought a ring for Jenna. I will post an update after I do it. It's probably tomorrow, though it may take me a couple of days to post about it. I'm going to be pretty wrecked emotionally. Thanks again for all the comments and messages of support and encouragement. I really didn't expect everyone to be rooting for me like this. Update. I, 33M, overheard my girlfriend, 28F, making fun of me pretty brutally to her best friend, 27M. When I say brutally, I mean brutally. Well, supportive Reddit strangers. I stayed strong and broke up with Jenna Thursday evening. This has honestly been the most dramatic couple of days of my entire life. I'm exhausted. Things got pretty ugly on her part. Sorry that this is so long. A lot happened. At the suggestion of my friends, mother, brother, and many of you, I talked to her in a private but still public place. The thought behind it was that someone who can be so cruel and reveal herself as a liar is potentially capable of trying to turn things around on me and say that she left me because I hurt her or some other nonsense. I'd like to think she wouldn't do something like that, but who knows, especially after everything that has happened. Better safe than sorry. I thought about just boxing up her stuff and breaking things off with no explanation, but it has been over 2 years together. I decided the best thing to do is to confront her calmly and then hear her out. If she had an explanation, I wanted to hear it, even if it didn't change my decision to break up with her. So I took her to a wine bar in downtown that has those little individual booths with half curtains. She's been sugary sweet since Monday, which tells me she either felt guilty about what a jerk she was, B, thought I might have hurt her, or C, she just knew I'd been acting distant and was totally clueless as to why. So she dressed up really nice and, despite everything that has happened, I can admit that she looked stunning. She was also very affectionate and kept making a lot of sexy comments about all the things she wanted to do to me later. Normally my precious little baby carrot would have been thrilled by this. But given the circumstances, it was difficult to hear and act normal. I had rehearsed what I was going to say to her over and over, so as soon as we sat down and got our wine, I started. I can't remember word for word. My adrenaline was kicked in pretty high gear, so it feels fuzzy. I basically started by saying how much I loved her, how she's the only woman that I've ever felt connected to so profoundly that I opened myself up to her completely and trusted her. I told her that she's the only woman I've ever thought about marrying, that I've gone ring shopping for. I left out the part about how I already bought a ring and that I've actually imagined having children with her in the next few years. She kept interrupting me to say, or to tell me how much she loves me too. Then I looked her in the eye and asked her point blank why. If she loved me so much, she horrendously made fun of me to Dylan. I have to say, the look on her face was a bit satisfying. As expected, she denied at first and acted like she had no idea what I was talking about. She said Dylan knows how much she loves me and that she's never made fun of me to him. I kind of just looked at her and said something like, "Come on, Jenna." But she still denied it, even after I told her that I'd come home early on Monday and had heard her. It was pretty frustrating, but I kept my cool. I just told her that she and I both know she's lying and that the things she said were unforgivable and that I couldn't wrap my mind around why she would say things like that to anyone, let alone Dylan, especially because she was lying just to be able to rag on me. Still denied it and acted like I was crazy. She said she loves me so much, that she's not dissatisfied with our sex life and would never say she was or complain about my size, and that she knows how smart and sweet I am. That's why she loves me. If I hadn't heard what she said to Dylan myself, I would have believed her. She deserves an Oscar for that performance. Some commenters asked if I was sure she was talking about me when I overheard her. When she was talking about her ex-BF and his horse cock of a dick, she said my name when she was making the comparison. I'm definitely sure that she was talking about me and that she was lying to my face about it. I told her that I would drive us home and she could grab the essentials she needed and her dog. My brother and his girlfriend would be at the house too. I wanted to make sure there were other people just to have witnesses that I let her get her stuff and didn't do anything aggressive or destructive. I told her I'd pack the rest of her stuff up and leave it out for her to get whenever she could. She was in total disbelief that I was actually breaking up with her. She pleaded with me, but my mind was made up and I wasn't budging. It was hard not to cry in front of her, though, when she kept saying how much she wanted to be with me forever and that she had planned to be the mother of my children someday. I own my house and, since Jenna hasn't helped with expenses by paying any rent or utilities, I wasn't too concerned about, putting it bluntly, kicking her out. She kept asking me what she was supposed to do and where was she supposed to sleep. I told her it wasn't really my problem anymore and that she has plenty of friends she can stay with until she gets her own place. Basically, all of the furniture and decor is mine. She just has clothes and toiletries, etc. to get out. All of the redecorating she did to my house was done on my dime. Then came the waterworks. She started crying and saying that she didn't understand how I could do this to her. She said she thought I was a nice guy about 1,000,000 times. I told her I am a nice guy, which is why I didn't just throw her stuff on the front lawn, change the locks, and give no explanation. Then, I swear to you, this woman dug the knife in even deeper. She said she didn't know why she said those things to Dylan. She finally acknowledged it. And that maybe it's because Dylan brings out the best in her, and she's able to laugh about things that would normally make her cry. I guess like my penis? I told her that it's really sad to me if what I heard was her at her best. It was petty and usually I'm above making snide comments, but I told her that she can go back to her hometown and go live with Dylan or her 9-inch dick ex-boyfriend. It was amazing to watch how fast those tears disappeared. Apparently, I am an asshole. I don't know how to treat women. I'm a loser. My penis is tiny. I'm gonna be alone forever. She never really loved me and I was more like a friend, but she didn't want to hurt me so she stayed with me, which makes a lot of sense. She would have said no if I'd proposed. Again, I am a loser and an asshole, and in case I didn't get it the first time, she meant it when she said my penis was a baby carrot. Oh, and I will die alone. I told her dying alone is preferred to dying married to a woman who is cruel and doesn't love or respect me. No joke. She started to scream. Not words, Just a long, extremely loud scream. It was alarming. And then she just booked it out of there after calling me a disgusting pig. After paying the bill and apologizing to the waiter about the drama, I left and Jenna was just standing outside crying. I know what she did was horrible and all the things she said just a few minutes earlier were horrible, but I still didn't like seeing her like that and didn't want to just leave her on the sidewalk. I'm in New England. It's already pretty cold here. So I told her to let me give her a ride back to the house so she could get her stuff, but that she needed to leave and go stay somewhere else as soon as she packed a bag. She agreed and we didn't talk at all in the car. Talk about an awkward ride. My brother and his wife were at the house when we got there. His wife stayed inside while Jenna got some stuff together and my brother waited outside with me. That went by pretty uneventfully and she had a girlfriend come pick her up. I got my key back from her before she left. She texted me throughout the night and the texts ranged from sorry to sad to angry to really angry and back again. I didn't answer any of them and only texted her yesterday morning to tell her that her stuff was on the porch and that she should come pick it up while I'm at work. I didn't hear from her all day until it was almost time for me to go home. Pretty nasty text wishing me about every ill one can wish a person. I didn't answer. Well, I came home to a disaster zone. She smashed everything. I don't know if she had made a spare key at some point that I was unaware of or if she knows how to pick locks, but she got into the house somehow and she destroyed it. She smashed stuff that's irreplaceable. She ripped up the furniture. She clogged 2 sinks and left the water running. She left my refrigerator open and threw food all over the kitchen. It was wrecked. The only considerate thing she did was lock my 2 dogs up in a bedroom. I guess so they didn't cut themselves on glass or eat the food. I have 2 vehicles. One for everyday use and then an SUV for work. I use the SUV for when I make house calls and may have to bring a large or exotic animal into the vehicle to transport it to the clinic. In the middle of all the drama, I'd forgotten I'd given her a key to the SUV in case she ever had an emergency and needed to drive somewhere. I went out to check the car and she trashed the inside of it too. She dumped flour all over the inside in addition to tomato soup. The stuff is just stuff, I suppose. It's more the fact that she could do something so childish and awful on top of everything else. It blows my mind. Last weekend I took her to a play and went out with her and friends. We played Monopoly one night and made up our own drinking game with it. We hung out and watched Netflix and made love several times, and this weekend my house and vehicle are destroyed and so am I. Amazing how fast things change. Not my finest moment, but I was so pissed off that I got right onto Costco's instant delivery and ordered 25-pound bags of baby carrots and had them shipped to her friend's place. Addressed to Jenna. 100 pounds of baby carrots. They deliver within an hour. I got a slew of interesting and insulting texts from her that evening. Yes, it was petty, but the only regret I have about it is that it was a waste of food. Hopefully she donates them or cooks some of them or something. So that's that. I blocked her last night after the nasty texts from her just kept coming. I'm feeling pretty beaten down right now and I've cried more than I have in a long time. It's obvious that I made the right choice. Jenna is clearly not emotionally stable or mature. She really is cruel and I know I do deserve better. I have spent a lot of time since Monday thinking about myself as a partner and trying to figure out what could have led to her obviously having some resentment or something for me. I'm going to be 100% honest here. I work a lot. I try to still make time for the people I love and I try not to bring work home with me when I've had a bad day. But sometimes I do. I know this. Jenna and I have fought about it before and I have really tried to pace my days a certain way so that I can get home at a reasonable time and I've tried to leave bad days at work as much as I can. However, anyone who is a vet or has worked with one knows we're always on call for emergencies. Sometimes we have patients that we have to check on or stay with throughout the night. Time off can be challenging. It's doable, but it's challenging. My staff is incredible and can handle most situations, but I still get a lot of calls or texts from them when I'm on vacation or off for the day. I'm sure there have been times when Jenna felt second best to my job. Well, I guess I know there have been. She's told me as much in the past. I did try to make changes, but there's only so much I can do. As far as I can remember, I've never been purposely mean to Jenna. I've had bad days and been grumpy or absent. We've had our share of disagreements and fights, but nothing unhealthy or excessive. I really thought we had a solid relationship and that we were both happy. I know I was. It's hard to not question myself and wonder if I really am a letdown or if I neglected her to the point that she felt unloved enough to act the way she did. I don't know, but I do know that no matter what, the way she put me down and the way she reacted to breaking up was way out of line. I didn't deserve that, and that's on her. So thank you for rooting for me, Reddit. It's been great to read all the nice words and advice. Time for me and my baby carrot to eventually find a woman who appreciates us for what we are. TLDR. I broke up with Jenna Thursday night. Did not go well. She got nasty and ended up destroying my house, car, and me, but I did it. It's over and I've blocked her from my phone/social media. I also sent her 100 pounds of baby carrots in a moment of angry weakness. Edit. I did file a police report and took pictures which will hopefully help with recouping some of the money lost through insurance. As far as the police report, it's very doubtful anything will come of it since I can't prove it was her. The same goes for trying to sue her in small claims court, and honestly, I'd rather not deal with her anymore. I'm gonna hope that insurance will cover the damages and just move on with my life. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Should I report my niece, 17F, to the police? My parents are going away for Christmas, so before they did, they hosted an early Christmas party at their home which my whole family went to, including me, my husband, and our 16-year-old daughter Laura. My sister and her daughter Rachel were there too. She's a year older than Laura, and they don't get along. In fact, we try to avoid them as much as we can due to the amount of times that Rachel has upset and tormented Laura. Rachel is naturally very smart and is always top of her class and is also very pretty. While I've always been happy for her and wished her the best, these things have constantly been used to excuse her. My sister even went as far as to accuse Laura of lying because she is jealous of Rachel's looks and talents. Laura took up boxing last year and has progressed really well. She's going to compete at a higher level next year, and her coach is extremely proud of her. My sister has insisted that boxing is nothing more than a phase and has gone out of her way to downplay it in favor of her daughter's academic stuff. At my parents' place, Laura went to sort out some presents under the tree, and Rachel followed her. She was wearing stiletto high heels, and when Laura had her hand on the floor, Rachel stamped on it. She was in agony. We went to the hospital, and after a follow-up visit to the doctor today, Laura needs extensive physio and will not be able to box for an indefinite period. She's in floods of tears because of this. I was raging at my sister, who was so deluded that she insisted that it was an accident. I'm sorry, but after years of calling Laura ugly, stupid, fat, and anything else she could think of, do you really expect me to believe that this was an innocent mistake? Rachel, for her part, put on the crocodile tears for everyone, and only her parents believed it. My husband wants to tell the police, and I do too. I warned my sister about this, and she broke down crying too, saying that her daughter's teachers have encouraged her to apply to the top universities because they think she's got a good chance of getting in, and that if she ends up with a criminal record, then it will be ruined. No sympathy from me, frankly. Rachel took something that my daughter loves away from her and left her in huge amounts of pain. She shouldn't just have her chances ruined. She should get locked up. I know it sounds awful of me, but she did an awful thing and needs to face the consequences. Laura is utterly heartbroken, and Rachel's parents won't punish her. Should I report my niece, 17, to the police? My niece greatly injured my daughter, and I want to press charges. My husband went and asked the doctor for a detailed written description of the extent of the injury, which she was happy to provide. I don't think I made it very clear in the original post that the injury was incredibly severe. Laura will need extensive physiotherapy, and it's uncertain if she'll ever regain full use of her hand. And yes, I did see the stomp happen with my own eyes. My parents and a few of the other adults who were there all agreed to provide a statement. Laura and I went to the police station with the doctor's note and showed them the injury. With this, the police suspected that for an injury like that, it would take a deliberate amount of pressure for a stiletto heel to cause it. They took statements from everyone willing to give them and also Rachel's parents, who, while still insisting it was an accident, did admit they saw Rachel follow Laura and step on her hand with the heel. Rachel was arrested but, on the advice of her solicitor, responded no comment when questioned by the police. She was charged with a Section 20 GBH, grievous bodily harm, offense. Rachel has been bailed and is not to approach Laura. I was on the phone with my parents, who are going away tomorrow, and was told that apparently Rachel has been having panic attacks at home and is terrified at the thought of going to prison. Of course, it may not come to that, but either way, she deserves to face the consequences of her awful behavior. My sister wants nothing more to do with me. I'm sad about that, but we haven't been close for years. In fact, there have been times when I've gone years without seeing her because her daughter would upset and torment mine, and she would refuse to do anything. She has not done anything to prevent Rachel's awful behavior for many years, and as a result, she did something absolutely disgusting. I understand her wanting to protect her child first and foremost, but that's exactly what I'm doing too. My sister and her husband are quite well off and could afford decent legal representation. I have no idea whether Rachel will plead guilty or go to a trial. I hope it's the former. If convicted, she could go to prison, but not for definite. Honestly, even if she doesn't, I wouldn't be very angry provided she faces some kind of consequences for her disgusting behavior. Laura is still really upset. She spends most of her time in her room crying. Her boxing coach came by the other day just to check on her and offer some comfort and some words of support. It's going to be a tough road ahead for her, but we'll be with her every step of the way. Even if she isn't able to box again, at least the person responsible for this can be punished for her disgusting behavior. Now on to the next story. Story 5. I'm a 40-year-old guy who's going through a super tough time because I'm getting a divorce. It's really hard because my ex-wife Amy, who is also 40, wants me to pay money to help raise our son Daniel. Normally I'd be okay with that because that's what you do for your kids, right? But here's where it gets complicated. Turns out Amy was not being faithful to me, and I don't mean just once, but many times with different guys. And this wasn't something that just happened out of the blue. It had been going on for the whole 5 years we were married. The crazy part is I had no idea any of this was happening. I always thought Daniel was my son. I was there at his birth, signed his birth certificate, and loved and raised him as my own. But after I found out about Amy's cheating, I had to know for sure, so I got a test to see if Daniel was biologically mine. The results came back, and it turns out he's not my biological son. So that's the mess I'm in. It's a lot to deal with, especially when it comes to the whole child support thing. Because of the situation with Amy and finding out Daniel isn't biologically mine, my name's on this super important piece of paper. A birth certificate for Daniel, right? And for the past year, I've been all in playing the dad role, doing everything from late-night feedings to diaper changes and all the fun and not-so-fun parts of parenting. It's been a wild ride, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Now here's where the plot thickens. It turns out I might have to hand over a big chunk of my paycheck to Amy, Daniel's mom, every single month. And get this, Amy is fully aware this whole situation isn't exactly on the up and up, but she's out there boasting to her pal about how she pulled a fast one. Can you believe that? It's like she scored a goal with her hand in soccer and is doing a victory dance. Just hearing whispers of her gloating is enough to make my blood boil. But wait, there's more. Once I got a sneaky suspicion about Amy's true colors, I went full detective mode. I installed these security cameras all around our place, thinking I'd catch something small, but boy was I in for a show. It was like Amy was hosting her own reality TV series with a new guest star every week, and sometimes this was all going down while Daniel was in the next room. That was the last straw for me, and that's how we ended up on the fast track to Splitsville, aka getting a divorce. But even with all this drama, I'm still clueless about who Daniel's real dad is, and let me tell you, that's a whole other level of heartache. The thought that Daniel, this amazing little human who I've bonded with, shared laughs with, and seen grow, might not actually be mine is crushing. It's like finding out your favorite superhero is actually a villain. Every time I look at him, I see the son I thought was mine, and it's like a punch to the gut. But even with all this mess, the hardest part is facing each day, trying to untangle my feelings of betrayal from the love I have for Daniel. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and honestly, it feels like I'm stuck on the ride with no way off. And I really, really want to stay in his life, like I want to be there for him, be a part of everything he does, you know? But here's the sticky part. I absolutely 100% do not want to send any money Amy's way, not a single cent. Why? Well, that's a whole other story. So I had a chat with my lawyer. I was hoping he'd have some sort of magic solution, but nah, he pretty much told me the odds weren't in my favor. He said the only way I could get out of this tight spot is if the real dad could somehow come forward, and not just come forward, but also prove that Amy was playing dirty tricks all along. Like showing that she lied to him too and basically set a trap for me when we were all tangled up in court figuring out the whole child support thing. And you know what? During one of those court sessions, I could have sworn I saw Amy turn around and give me this little wink as if she was saying, "Gotcha." Man, that moment really stuck with me. I was so fired up. I wanted to challenge the whole court decision. But let's be real. Fighting this was like trying to climb a mountain with your hands tied. The court had already decided I was the kid's legal dad, even though we all know that's not the full story. It felt like a heavyweight, and part of me was almost ready to just accept it and move on. Kind of like when you're playing a game and you know you're about to lose, but you keep playing anyway. But then, just when I thought it was all set in stone, something totally out of the blue happened. I got this text message, and it wasn't from just anyone. It was from a friend of Amy's. Yeah, you heard that right, her friend. And the text was like an invitation, asking if I wanted to meet up. It was the most unexpected twist. Imagine getting a message from someone connected to the person who's been making your life super complicated, and they're like, "Hey, want to hang out?" It was weird and intriguing all at the same time. Emma had always been super nice, and I knew she didn't exactly see eye to eye with my ex Amy, especially when it came to the whole mess around our divorce. It seemed like their friendship was really going through a tough patch because of all that drama. Then I got to meet Emma, and boy, did she have some tea to spill. Turns out she got so fed up with Amy's antics that she completely cut ties with her. Why? Well, it was all about Amy's attitude towards the child support I was paying. I was curious about what Emma meant, so I asked her to spill the beans. She showed me these messages from Amy where she was basically bragging about how she'd used the child support cash for shopping sprees and fancy trips. And get this, she even said she had a buddy who could make all her shopping look like it was actually money spent on Daniel, our kid. Emma wasn't having any of it. She called Amy out right in the middle of a group chat with all their friends. But instead of getting back up, everyone turned on Emma. They were all like, "Amy's just doing what's best for her. And Daniel's not in any danger. Plus, it's all your fault for letting the relationship sink." I was boiling mad reading all that. It was the push I needed. I was dead set on fighting that court order to pay child support. There was no way I was letting this slide after seeing how Amy was really planning to use that money. So after getting all riled up from what Emma told me, I came up with a game plan. I thought, why not have Emma stand up in court for me, as a character witness to spill the beans on all the shady stuff Amy's been saying? I figured that with Emma backing me up, the court might see things my way, and maybe, just maybe, they'd cut down on the amount of cash Amy's trying to squeeze out of me. When I pitched the idea to Emma, she was all in. She was like, "Absolutely, I've got your back on this." It felt good to know she was on my side, especially with everything going sideways with the divorce. Next up, I'm planning to challenge the divorce decree. I want to shake things up and see if there's any way to get a fairer deal. But not gonna lie, I've got this nagging worry in the back of my mind. Amy's behavior has been all over the place, and I can't help but stress about how all this drama might impact Daniel. On one hand, I'm hoping to cut down the child support, but on the other, the thought of taking full custody of Daniel and raising him by myself, that feels like a whole different ballgame. As much as I want to step up, I know deep down that taking on the role of Daniel's full-time dad is something I'm not ready for. This whole situation has got me caught up in a real mind game. On one side, I'm worried sick about whether Amy can actually take care of the kids properly. It's like this constant gnawing feeling that makes me question if I'm making the right move by pushing forward with this legal battle. Then there's the whole money side of things. Amy's out there pitching this insane amount of child support, claiming it's all about keeping up with Daniel's expected standards of living. It sounds like she's just trying to milk the situation for all it's worth. If I just roll over and accept her terms, it's gonna hit my wallet hard. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that if I don't stand up now, I'll be dealing with the fallout of this financial strain for who knows how long. It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I take a stand and fight for a fairer deal, knowing it might stir up more drama? Or do I just suck it up and deal with the financial hit, all the while worrying if Amy is actually putting Daniel's needs first? It's a tough call, and no matter which way I lean, it feels like I'm gambling with more than just money. It's our lives on the line. What should I do, Reddit? Update 1. So after hearing what everyone had to say, I've made up my mind to push forward with the case. Plus, I've been tossing around the idea of maybe getting shared visitation with Daniel. But the sticky part is, since the whole affair mess didn't directly involve Daniel, it's a bit of a long shot that it'll really flip the script for us. Yet I'm kind of hopeful that having Emma stand up in court and lay it all out there could make a real difference, especially with how the child support payments are figured out. The goal here is to make sure there's a tight watch on how my ex uses that money. I'm dead set on making sure not a dime of that child support ends up being a freebie for her to spend on herself. Update 2. Here we go. The appeal's still in the works, but guess what? There's been a twist in the plot. Emma got in touch with me again, and turns out another one of Amy's buddies has had it out with her, and this person, they've got some intel that could totally change the game for me, possibly even opening a door to sue for paternity fraud. They've got a lead on who might actually be Daniel's dad. Here's the scoop. Amy had a heart-to-heart with this friend while she was still pregnant, spilling the beans that she knew all along who the real father was. The catch? This confession happened because the real dad is someone this friend works with, someone she's pretty tight with. And now this mystery friend has gone and passed the guy's contact details to Emma, pushing me to have a chat with him. It's like something out of a movie, right? Now I'm sitting here thinking about the next move. Talking to this guy could really shake things up. This whole situation is turning into something straight out of a drama series, and I'm right in the middle of it. Could either be a huge win or a total disaster for me. If Michael, the guy who might actually be Daniel's real dad, is feeling any sort of way about Amy, or better yet, if he's been wronged by her too, I might have a solid case to sue her for paternity fraud. The idea of getting back at Amy in court is kind of satisfying, not gonna lie. Michael seems to be pretty chill about the whole divorce saga with Amy, almost like he's out of the loop with her current schemes. Yeah, I know calling it Amy's roster might not be the classiest move. Guess I'm finding my sense of humor in all this mess. But moving on, I reached out to Michael. I tried to lay it all out for him as best as I could via text, making it clear I'm not out to start any trouble with him. The news that Daniel might be his kid hit Michael like a ton of bricks. He was totally blindsided. Turns out he's just as eager to meet up as I am, if not more. He's looking to get to the bottom of this and figure out if Daniel is really his son. It's a lot to process, but it feels like we're on the verge of unraveling something big here. Update 3. Buckle up, because it's a wild one. Alright, so after finally meeting up with Michael, let me tell you, my view on my ex has hit rock bottom. Turns out she's pulled off some villain-level stuff. Picture this. She lures Michael into a one-night stand, with no signs of her being married or anything. Sneaky, right? Later on, through some detective work by this anonymous friend who's like a real-life Sherlock Holmes, Michael finds out Amy was actually married to me at the time. And guess what? He was too freaked out to come clean to me about the whole mess. Fast forward, and Michael's completely in the dark about Amy being pregnant. They don't talk, they don't text, nothing, until Daniel pops into the world. Amy feeds him this line about not being his kid and even goes as far as to lie about being on birth control. Classic Amy, right? But when Michael and I finally sit down and piece together the timeline, it's like the clouds part and bam, it hits us. Daniel's probably Michael's kid. And wouldn't you know it, a paternity test later confirms our suspicions. Michael's floored. He's missed a whole year of his son's life and is fuming at Amy for playing us both like a fiddle. So after hashing it out with Michael and getting the lowdown, I buzz my lawyer. He practically jumps at the case, saying we've got solid ground to drag Amy to court for paternity fraud. So here's the plan. Michael and I are teaming up, buddy cop style, to take Amy to task for her deceit. She thought she could play us, but she's about to find out she messed with the wrong dudes. It's lawsuit time, and Amy's about to learn the hard way that karma is not just a concept. It's about to become her reality. Update 4. And it's big news, the latest in this saga. The case we've kicked off is making waves, and let me tell you, it's raining victories on our side. First off, the whole child support thing flipped on its head. Not only am I off the hook for payments, but now Amy's the one who's got to pay up for all the emotional chaos and damage she's caused. Talk about a 180. When I said we were going to clean house, I wasn't tossing words into the wind. Emma stepped up to the plate with her testimony, plus all that evidence showing Amy knew darn well who Daniel's real dad was but decided to play dumb. That was the game changer, tipping the scales in our direction. And here's the kicker. Amy's throwing in the towel on custody. She's actually stepping back and letting Michael take the reins, wanting to raise Daniel with his partner. The fact that she's so detached from her son, ready to just hand him over, it's beyond appalling. This whole journey's been a roller coaster, but it's moments like these that show sometimes things do start to swing back toward justice. Michael stepping up to the plate, ready to be a dad to Daniel with open arms. It's a bit of light at the end of what's been a pretty dark tunnel. Yeah, Amy stepping back so easily from Daniel's life, it doesn't really shock me, but it does leave a sour taste. She might pop in for visits here and there, which I guess is better than nothing. And Michael? He's been a real champ through all of this. He's even left the door open for me to stay in Daniel's life as an uncle. That's pretty big of him, and it means a lot. The last thing anyone wants is for all this drama to mess Daniel up as he grows. It's going to take a ton of effort and understanding from everyone involved to steer clear of that. Getting to know Michael better has been an unexpected twist in this whole story. The guy's got integrity. He's been upfront about feeling bad over his part in the affair, even though he was misled by Amy from the start. It's a weird mix of feelings to navigate, but respect to him for how he's handling things. And oh yeah, there's a bit of personal news. Emma and I are sort of an item now. We're keeping it chill and not rushing into labels, but she's truly incredible. Life's thrown a curveball or two, but it's moments and connections like these that make you appreciate the good stuff amidst the chaos. The whole situation with Emma standing out from Amy's friend group because she didn't condone Amy's actions speaks volumes. It just goes to show how different she is from my ex. And it's refreshing. We're moving at our own pace, but it's genuinely nice to feel a sense of stability and trust with her. A stark contrast to my past relationship. As for Amy's social circle, it's like watching dominoes fall one by one. Her friends are drifting away, most likely trying to distance themselves from the fallout of the paternity fraud scandal. It's a bit of a ship deserting the sinking captain scenario. Emma, for her part, has pretty much cut ties with that whole group, which under the circumstances is understandable. It's a huge relief to see Daniel in a better situation now, with Michael stepping up and Amy, well, at least not interfering. And as for me, finding a way through the storm, landing in a place where I can look back and see just how far I've come. It's been a journey. And yeah, the support and advice I found here, priceless. It's amazing how much of a difference a bunch of strangers on the internet can make. Big thanks to everyone who's been part of this ride. Update 5. So here's the latest scoop on the roller coaster that is my life. After the last update, things seem to be smoothing out, with Daniel adjusting well to his new life with Michael and Amy becoming a distant memory. Emma and I are officially an item now, and it's been pretty awesome. She's a breath of fresh air after the toxic tornado that was my marriage. Michael's been a champ about letting me stay in Daniel's life. The kids basically got 3 parents and an extra uncle now. It's weird, but in a good way. We're like this modern, mixed-up family that somehow works. Seeing Daniel happy and thriving is worth all the awkwardness our unconventional setup might bring. Now on to the new drama, because life apparently refuses to give me a break. Emma and I hit a little snag when her ex popped back into the picture, claiming he wanted to reconnect. I trust Emma, but this guy's intentions seemed as clear as mud on a rainy day. It threw us for a loop, forcing us to navigate through a patch of jealousy and insecurity I didn't know I had. Spoiler alert, we got through it stronger, but boy was it a rough ride. And just when I thought Amy had faded into the background of my life, she just decided to make a reappearance. She's been trying to worm her way back into Daniel's life, which, fair enough, she's his biological mom. But she's also been dropping hints about missing us, as in her and me, as if the past could just be wiped clean. I listened because Daniel's well-being is my priority, but it's been complicated. Forgiving is one thing, forgetting is another. Michael's been an unexpected ally through this. The guy could have easily seen me as part of the problem, but instead, we've bonded over being duped by Amy and our mutual love for Daniel. It's an alliance I never saw coming, but I'm grateful for it. Here's where it gets even more soap opera worthy. Amy's latest scheme involved trying to sue me for emotional distress. You can't make this stuff up. She claimed that my actions had caused her undue suffering. It was laughable given everything, but still required a trip to court. Thankfully, the judge saw through her antics and dismissed the case faster than you can say drama queen. Meanwhile, Emma's support has been unwavering. She stood by me through the ex-drama, the Amy circus, and everything in between. We've had our moments, sure, but they've only made us stronger. Our relationship has become this solid, comforting presence in my life, something I didn't think I'd find again. As for Daniel, the little trooper is as happy and oblivious to the adult craziness as we can manage. Michael's been great about keeping things stable for him, and we've all been working to ensure he feels loved and secure. No kid should have to deal with the fallout from adult messes, and we're committed to keeping him shielded from it as much as possible. Oh, and in a twist of fate, I've become something of a local celebrity thanks to a blog I started about navigating the murky waters of divorce, paternity fraud, and everything in between. It's become a space for sharing, healing, and occasionally a bit of venting. Who knew my messed up life could offer solace to others? To wrap up this novel-length update, life's been throwing curveballs like it's the World Series of drama, but somehow we're hitting them out of the park. Emma and I are going strong, Daniel is flourishing, and even Amy's situation is manageable. I've learned a lot about resilience, forgiveness, and the power of moving forward no matter what. Thanks for sticking with me, Reddit. Your advice, jokes, and occasional tough love have been more helpful than you know. Here's to hoping the next update is boring in comparison. But who am I kidding? Life seems to have other plans. Cheers to the next chapter, whatever it may bring. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.